Hello and welcome to the SoO of Pride, another fun and interesting fight in the Siege of Orgrimmar raid. This is the in-depth guide, so if you want the quick guide, check the description of the video. You will need 2 tanks, 2 to 3 healers and 5 to 6 DPS for 10 man. The SoO fight revolves around a pride mechanic, which is basically corruption, but we call it pride instead. Everyone starts off totally humble and with no pride, and will gain pride over time from avoidable abilities and unavoidable abilities alike. Higher levels of pride will trigger different effects. The idea is to keep your pride as low as possible by avoiding as much as you can. We tank the boss to the side, with all non-tanks stacked up behind the boss as the ad spawns from the back of the room. This way tanks could pick up the ad and DPS could hit it at the same time. We'll discuss the ad in a second. Tanks will have to be extremely alert on this boss due to the debuff the SoO puts on the current tank called Wounded Pride. This does not stack, and as soon as one tank has this debuff, the other tank should taunt right away. Taunting too slow will make the tank gain far too much pride. Every so often an ad called a Manifestation of Pride will spawn at the back of the room. This ad needs to be picked up by a tank and brought in range of the DPS. It is a caster and needs to be interrupted constantly to move, so DPS may need to help with interrupting, though it can be death gripped if you have a Death Knight. It casts Mocking Blast, which deals a large amount of damage to a random player and gives them 5 pride. This needs to be interrupted as much as possible. When it is killed, it will give 5 pride to the 2 closest players. The boss will also use Self-Reflection, which will cause ads to explode underneath random players after 2 seconds, dealing a high amount of damage to anyone within 2 yards, and making them gain 5 pride. To deal with this, simply have your raid move a bit when Self-Reflection is cast, as there is a small delay that should allow everyone to be out of the way of the explosion. They don't have to move far, as it is only 2 yards. When the ads spawn, they need to be AoE'd down. They do not have to be tanked and will only melee attack. They should die very, very quickly. These ads can sometimes spawn on the tanks, in which case some of the DPS should just single target them down. At regular intervals, the boss will cast Corrupted Prison. This will trap 2 players in 10 man and 4 players in 25 man in the strange circles in the 4 corners of the room. While trapped, the players will be stunned and unable to do anything at all while taking huge amounts of shadow damage and gain 5 pride every second. Any players standing on the prison as it activates will be knocked back, take damage and gain 5 pride. To free a player, 1 player must stand in each of the glowing orange segments around the prison, 2 in 10 man and I think 3 in 25 man. Ideally, you want to mark all of the prison locations and have raid members call out the color of the marker of their prison. We found that players were trapped in the same 2 prisons every time. Given the way we were split, tanks could free the player on their side and everyone else freed the person on their side. Tanks can easily free a player, given that the tank tanking the boss can stand on the orange bit closest to the boss, while the other tank not tanking the boss takes the further bit, and then the person is free. This made the fight much, much easier. If you're in 25 man, you will need groups of players with movement speed increasing effects to quickly get to and unlock the prisons. Your friend Narushen, also known as the guy who tried to kill you before this fight, will now be helping you by buffing random players with Gift of the Titans for 20 seconds, which makes those players immune to pride gaining effects, and when all the players with this buff stack up within 8 yards, they gain a 15% haste and damage buff. Having everyone but the tanks stacked up not only helps with healing, but it makes sure that this buff is up as much as it can be. This buff is extremely important for healers because of the debuff called Mark of Arrogance, which is a dot the boss will apply to random players. It can stack, and dispelling it grants 5 pride to the dispeller, so healers need to wait until they have Gift of the Titans, and then they can dispel. Healers need to pay attention to see if they have the buff before dispelling. Mass dispel won't work, and it must be a single target dispel. The boss has an energy bar that fills up over time, and when it is full, the boss will cast Swelling Pride. You can't affect the boss's energy gain in any way. It is just there to see how close it is to the next Swelling Pride. Swelling Pride deals massive damage to everyone in the raid and makes them gain 5 pride. It will also have other effects on players depending on their current level of pride. These effects are as follows. Players between 25 and 49 pride will spawn a swirling cloud of muck at the ground that will explode, dealing massive damage and adding 5 pride to anything within 5 yards. So get away from it, and stay away from it until it goes boom. Players between 50 and 74 pride create a swirling cloud of shadow which will explode, dealing massive damage to the entire raid and make everyone gain 5 pride, unless the person who created it stands in it. If you see a giant green arrow, you should stand in it, as the person who sees the green arrow is the one who spawned it. Players between 77 and 99 pride AoE everyone around them with Aura of Pride for 25 seconds, which deals damage and adds pride to anyone hit. Players with this on them need to get away from and stay away from everyone else. Once a player reaches 100 pride, they gain a damage and healing buff of 50%. When they get hit by another swelling pride, they will gain double health and become permanently mind-controlled. These players will have to be killed. When the boss reaches 30% health, he will one-shot Norushen and begin AoEing everyone in the raid every 10 seconds for massive shadow damage and making them gain 5 pride. As Norushen dies, he resets all players' pride back to 0. The Shah of Pride continues using all earlier abilities. This is the time to use Bloodlust, pop everything, and nuke the boss down. If it's not killed in time, players will get mind-controlled. And that's it for the Shah of Pride. I hope you found this guide helpful, and if you did, then click that like button and post a comment, and it would be much appreciated. And of course, subscribe for more videos. Good luck, and have fun.